Let's talk about Captain America. For a long time, you'd hear people say he's a little boring, a bit of a one-dimensional Boy Scout. But what if I told you that very boring quality is actually the key to one of the most brilliant character arcs in recent memory? Today, we're going to break down exactly why that is.
I mean, this line says it all, doesn't it? It's not just a catchphrase, it's his entire philosophy packed into 5 words. It's this deep, stubborn belief that defines him, from the very beginning all the way to the end. The guy just does not quit.
And right there, that's the big puzzle. Everything we know about storytelling says characters need to change, they need to grow, they're supposed to have a flaw they have to overcome. So what do you do when your main character already starts out as a fundamentally good person?
To really get the genius of his story, we have to start with the problem he creates for the writers. You see, he doesn't fit the typical hero mold, not even a little bit.
Just look at this breakdown. You've got guys like Tony Stark, who had to learn how to be selfless, or Peter Parker, who had to learn that with great power comes great responsibility. Their stories are all about becoming a hero. But Steve Rogers, he's a hero in his heart from day one. He's just waiting for a body that can keep up. So the challenge wasn't, how do we make him better? It was, how do we make him compelling when he's already good?
And this is the proof, right here. His big moment in the first Avenger, crashing the plane to save everyone. That's not where his story ends, that's where it begins. This is the same guy who threw himself on a dummy grenade when he was just a skinny kid from Brooklyn. So if your hero starts at the absolute peak of self-sacrifice, where in the world do you go from there? Well, the writers at Marvel figured out this really elegant, super effective solution. It's a move that basically flips the whole idea of character development right on its head.
And that's it. That's the secret sauce. The story of Steve Rogers isn't about him changing to fit a new world. Nope, it's about the world changing around him and all the drama that kicks up when it smacks right into his unshakable values.
This storytelling technique actually has a name. It's called a flat character arc. Now, I know what you're thinking. Flat sounds boring. But it doesn't mean the character is boring at all. It means they're a stable force, like a rock. The story isn't about the rock changing. It's about watching the world try and fail to change the rock. The real question becomes, will he bend? And with Steve Rogers, the answer is always a hard no.
So this is basically the 3-step plan. Step 1, establish those rock-solid values. They did that perfectly in his first movie. Step 2, take that character and drop him into a totally different world. In his case, 70 years in the future, a world that's way more cynical and complicated. And then step 3, just smash them together and watch what happens.
So let's actually trace this journey. We can see this collision play out across all his movies, and we get to watch him go from being a symbol of the government to its #1 most wanted fugitive, all without ever really changing who he is at his core.
This timeline lays it out perfectly. In 2012, he's a soldier, and he's loyal, but he's starting to ask questions. By 2014, his trust in the system is completely gone, and just 2 years later, he's in open rebellion against that very system. The man doesn't change, but his place in the world gets turned completely upside down.
The first real shock to his system is finding out that S.H.I.E.L.D. is secretly using alien tech to build weapons of mass destruction. See, in his day, the good guys were the good guys, end of story. Now, everything is in a moral gray area. He's realizing the people he's supposed to trust are keeping secrets, and his 1940s black and white worldview is starting to clash with 21st century paranoia. This line from The Winter Soldier is everything. It's the moment the conflict becomes crystal clear. S.H.I.E.L.D.'s plan, Project Insight, is to kill threats before they even happen. You're sacrificing freedom for the sake of security. For Steve, a guy who fought a literal world war against fascism, that is a line you just do not cross. Period.
And that's the beautiful paradox of his story. Steve's core beliefs, they haven't moved an inch. He still believes in protecting people's freedom and doing the right thing. But because the world has changed its definition of what's right, America's greatest soldier becomes an enemy of the state. He doesn't change, he's recontextualized by the world around him.
Now, all of this leads to Civil War, which is basically the ultimate test of his entire philosophy. This is where we see just how much it costs to be an immovable object when the entire world is screaming at you to move. This quote sums up his entire character arc. The whole world wants him to compromise, to bend to the will of 117 countries. But he believes his duty, his real duty, is to stand his ground and tell the world, no, you move. And that conviction, it literally rips the Avengers right down the middle.
He is so sure that he is right that he's willing to fight his friends, the people he trusts the most. He's willing to become a criminal to stand up for what he believes in.
And look, this isn't him just being stubborn for the sake of it. It's based on his own experience. He watched an organization like S.H.I.E.L.D., which was supposed to be good, get corrupted from the inside out by Hydra. So when Tony Stark says they need oversight, Steve knows the painful truth. You can't always trust the people giving the orders, because, as he says, agendas change.
But here's the thing. There's another story that's been running this whole time, a much quieter, more personal one. And this second story is what makes his final decision in Endgame so incredibly powerful. Think back to the moment he wakes up in the 21st century. What's the first thing he says? It's not about the mission or how he survived. It's, I had a date. Underneath the super-soldier, there has always been a man out of time, a man who is grieving the life and the love that he lost. So, after everything, how do you wrap up the story of the man who always sacrifices? You can't just have him make one more sacrifice. That would feel cheap, repetitive. But with Endgame, the war is finally truly over. Thanos is gone. His duty is done. And for the first time since he came out of the ice, he gets to make a choice for himself. And that is the perfect resolution. It isn't him abandoning his friends or his duty. It's a reward. It's the soldier finally getting to go home. The man who always put the world first, finally gets to put himself first and close that personal loop that started the second he woke up. So it leaves us with this big question. A lot of people see his ending as selfish, maybe even out of character. But when you really look at his entire journey, the constant fighting, the unwavering belief, was it really selfishness? Or was it the only fitting reward for a good soldier whose long war was finally